Hello everybody. Today I wanted to talk about the 10 most awesome ball python morphs that you can get $250 or less. This will be for either genes or combos or morphs of some sort. This is probably going to be mostly useful for someone who's just looking for a cool pet that's kind of got a little bit more of a budget, but this can very easily be used to get into breeding a little bit cheaper if you play your cards properly and right. With that being said, let's just go ahead and get into our list of 10 of the coolest ball pythons that you can get $250 or less. Starting off our list is going to be a very cool gene that doesn't get talked about enough. At number 10 would be Champagne. Champagne alone can have a lot of variety and variability to it, but if you take a look here, you can see just the Champagne by itself, what it looks like in a higher end example of a Champagne in my opinion. They're really nice. They tend to have a lot of weird smudges around them, especially on their heads and such, but all in all, a very cool animal by itself. Starting here, we have a Banana Cinnamon Champagne, and yes, no pied, but yet looks like a pied. So why is that? You can get what's called a poor man's pied from a Champagne. Champagne, for whatever reason, tends to get a lot of ringers, even when pied's not even in the equation. Champagne just brings in a lot of unpredictability when you're combining it with other genes. Here's one I really like. Champagne Inchy Orange Dream Het Hypo. Lots of really nice looking colors. Almost looks like it is hypo in a way, but Champagne does have some drawbacks. They do change with age. As you can see in this example here, this is not the same snake, but the same genes. It can wash away patterns and colors in a way. I still think it's a really cool gene, and I still think this is a really cool snake, but it's not the same snake as you see in this picture, which is the same exact gene. So just something to think about, but they still are regardless an absolutely amazing looking animal. Next on our list would be the Bamboo, and Bamboo is very close to my heart. One of my, if not my favorite single gene morph. I like to compare Bamboo to what Spider does to the patterns. Spider does a lot, but Bamboo has no neurological issues at all, which is great. Bamboo is amazing. It does a bunch of things, but I said earlier in our last one with Champagne that you have to be careful if you're working with Bamboo, because Bamboo does a lot, and therefore if you combine it too much, it can also kind of overtake your pattern. It's hard to beat out the Bamboo pattern, so to speak, but it can be done, and it is an absolutely amazing animal just by itself anyways. And some great examples of what you can do with Bamboo in certain combos would be this Bamboo Inchy right here. Bamboo Inchy is going to bring in a little bit more brightness to it, but then it's going to make that pattern even more wacky. It's just going to give you, again, another really cool exotic animal, especially for a pet quality. Speaking about Spider, ironically, Bamboo and Spider make a really beautiful animal, as you can see right here. Bamboo does a lot of the same things as Spider in terms of the white being brought up on its belly. So when you combine the two of them together, it's no surprise that that kind of amplifies. Now, I have seen a lot of variety with Bamboo Spiders. I've seen ones that are absolutely killer, where the white seems to go nearly up to the side, except for the dorsal fin, which is like an electric bolt going down its back. Meanwhile, the head pattern is still present and still very vibrant and very noticeable. They're beautiful snakes. Another one would be the Bongo gene, so Bamboo Bongo. Bongo in and of itself is a really cool gene that maybe one day we'll go over, but it kind of melts the pattern a little bit and in some cases brightens it up. I've actually noticed in some genes where I think it kind of darkens the snake in just a little bit, or at the very least has the granulated effect, but it definitely kind of just gives you a bit of a wonky pattern. As you can see here in this case, it just really lightens the sides up almost like a cloud. But regardless, Bamboo is a soft spot for me, so it had to make the list. At number 8, the GHI Mojave, a simple 2-gene combo, and I think it's one of the most outstanding animals ever. You get a ton of contrast, a dark snake mostly, with some fairly nice, bright, almost glowing stripes down the dorsal. I've always really appreciated when these 2-gene combos can be put together and just look so amazing. And these combos in general can be a good example of things that might work with other genes, especially when comboed with a recessive. That's why GHA Mojave clowns are just chef's kiss. Again, I've said many times how much I love contrast, and for such a simple combo, it really just nails it. Simplicity sometimes is king. Here's a really good example of a GHA Mojave or Mystic. Mystic and Mojave are very similar, by the way. As you can see, they sometimes can look a little different, but the one consistent thing is that they're all cool and they all have a lot of dark to light contrast, which I love. Moving on to our next pick would be the blue-eyed leucistics. Not every single blue-eyed leucistic combo will be in here, but your standard just white snake, blue eyes, you can now get for under 250 bucks. And there are variety, believe it or not, amongst them. You can find something like a lesser butter, which is a very white snake with very blue eyes. And they look just so clean. And that's what's so unique about them. You can use them again in breeding type projects. They're always gonna pass at least one gene or the other down, but it is a little bit harder to work. It's always gonna be a whitish snake with blue eyes. You can, however, get the super Mojaves, which is again 2 of the blue-eyed leucistic genes, and those kind of create a blue-eyed snake, which is mostly white, with a gray head. Just a different flavor to it, but just showing that they're not exactly the same. You can get things that are a little bit different, and not all super Mojaves show the same expression with the gray head. Like this one here, you can see it, and you can even see a little bit of eye stripe right here, kind of. Just for another example, super lessers in general are considered probably to be the snake that gets the absolute purest white with the biggest blue eyes. And when I say the biggest blue eyes, I mean that. For some reason, super lessers can tend to have large eyes. I haven't heard of any issues around that, but they are larger eyes, and it's just something to consider if for some reason that bugs you out. Next would be the first recessive on our list, a member of the T+ albino family, the ultramel morph. Now these are a different kind of albino than what you're normally used to looking at, which we'll get into soon, but these are the T+ albinos. As you can see, they do not have the crazy red eyes that the normal albinos have, but they have a different color pattern too. They almost have a bit of an orangish along with almost like banana-like colors coming in between the pattern. But you can even get these available in combos for under 250 bucks. Take for example this Enchi Ultramel, which has just really cool colors, a little bit brighter, and a crazy pattern to boot. Now Ultramels do change with age a little bit, which is the only reason why I prefer the Monarchs. Ultramels still are amazing, so please don't try to take that as me trying to dig on Ultramels, but they tend to lose a little bit of their vibrance. This isn't always the case though, and especially when you layer their genes on top of this. In fact, one of our picks for our top 5 snakes from one of our Tinley shows that we love to go to was a Ultramel Clown Pied, and that thing just was so absolutely stunning. It was one of the most gorgeous snakes I've ever seen in my life. Ultramel is a really cool pick for someone getting into something for under 250 bucks, and being a recessive could serve to be a springboard if you want to get into breeding. If you like the video so far, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It always helps us out, helps us grow, and bring you more content like this. Following up the Ultramel, being a T+ albino, let's just get into the regular albino. And while we're at it, let's throw Candy in there as well, because these two are both under 250 bucks and they kind of work very well together. The biggest difference between Candy and albino that you should know is that albino has a more white pattern coming in between their yellows, whereas Candy has more purplish lavenders coming in between. They also tend to have a little bit more ruby red eyes as opposed to a bright red eye. Candy and Tofino, by the way, are very likely the very same gene. Kind of like how Banana and Coral Glow are the actual same gene. Again, you can kind of see how in the Candy you have a little bit more of a ghostly lavender where the whites would be on an albino. And then just to show the albino, you can kind of see how the whites are far different from the lavenders that would go in between. The eyes, again, much brighter red eyes as opposed to the dark ruby red eyes of a Candy. These are 2 different genes, and they're both recessive genes. So theoretically, they should not actually be compatible, right? Wrong. If you breed an albino and a Candy together, you get Candino. Here's a really good example of a Candino, and I find them a little bit more bright, but they seem to glow. It's the best of both worlds. You have a bright snake, but it has these lavenders in between. They quite literally look like a glowing sticker. Here's another really great example of what I'm talking about. Much brighter than the Candy typically is, but also the lavender colors. And again, all of this, the Candino, the albino, and the Candy, under 250 bucks, and a recessive. So why not just get both and make your own Candinos? Next, the ever so popular Banana Ball Python, or Coral Glow. Kind of similar to what we were just talking about with the yellows and the lavenders. And bananas are so interesting because they essentially metamorphose with age. As they grow old, they tend to turn into a 2-tone kind of yellow. Sometimes they do keep some of the oranges and such that they have in such these nice vibrant colors, but then they actually, true to their name, get these black spots all over them. And I have some bananas here that we can show that have started getting those, including my very first ball python ever, Gwen. Another really cool combo here would be the banana black pastel. It really enhances the lavender colors and it keeps those lavenders from turning into a two-tone yellow, I feel. Again, we have a banana black pastel that is also het for clown here, and you can see just how beautiful she is. They're just very vibrant and they just tend to keep their colors a lot more. I think banana and black pastel make an excellent combo for either pet quality or breeder. Here we got a banana leopard yellow belly, which is just wow. You've got a lot of purples and oranges. There's also a lot of color going on here. You've got your yellows, a lot of contrasts, these purples and lavenders that just kind of morph and melt into some orange just splashed in there. There's just so much going on with these. Again, banana enchi with yellow belly, and banana enchi is a match made in heaven. They are made for each other, and I'm trying to just make basic banana enchis for pet quality this year just to sell because they're beautiful. Enchi brings in a lot of oranges and does great things with the patterns. It really enhances what the banana does and gives it an even more exotic look for an already exotic animal. On top of that, you can actually get banana pieds for under 250 bucks. Pied brings not just the cool splotches of whites into it, but I love pied more for what it does to the pattern. It just jumbles it all up, and whenever you can jumble up banana pattern, it seems to be a formula for success, because what it does is it just brings a lot of those transitions in. Whenever banana has to transition from yellow to orange to its lavenders, it just really splashes color all over the place, and that's what pied's going to do. Dropping into our top three would be the all too famous clown ball pythons. You look at almost every ball python breeder and they always have clown. That is because clown does something incredibly unique to the head of the ball python. It gives it a distinct look. Leopard clown is another one that you can get for under 250 bucks, and leopard and clown work wonderful together. Look at these head stamps. Leopard really accentuates and works very well with clown because it actually does look like a leopard spots on the side of it. Spot nose and clown go very well together because clown serves well to interact and give pattern and craziness to the head of a ball python where not very many other genes do. Spot nose also does this, which is why they work so well together, because it just creates such an awesome animal. I mean, it looks like it has a mask on. Here's a cool example of a super pastel leopard clown. Pastel clowns look really nice, but they can brown out. Super pastel clowns, they just really pop. They will change with age, but who cares? They're still going to be awesome in the end. Enchi clown is another one. I have an Enchi pastel clown here, and Enchi also can sometimes mess with the head patterns on a ball python, and it actually lessens the stripes, so you essentially have a thick dorsal stripe going down your snake with these little webs that'll occasionally shoot down the sides of it. But the heads are usually always affected pretty well, and almost like a cross. That's what I noticed with a lot of Enchi clowns, is they have a cross. Moving into our top two is one that I've kind of already shown, and that would be the pied ball python. Pied in general is amazing just for one other reason that I've kind of mentioned earlier. Pied jumbles up patterns. So you can have something like this, which would be a high white pied, or you can have something like this, which is a lower white pied, which only has a couple spots where the white is coming through. And even amongst these, there can be a ton of variety because of what pied does to the pattern. It just usually can have some more blotches in there, usually have these little lines, almost like stripes going through it. And then sometimes you have these little islands where they pop up and usually have two black patterns, one for each side of the spine. The other cool thing is that it doesn't really matter. You can have an nearly all white or an all white pied, and they can create a high pattern pied. It's just random, and that's why it's so timeless. You can layer on stuff like pastel, enchi. This one is possible yellow belly as well. I kind of see a little bit of hints of that being in there, but as you can see, enchi tends to bring more pattern into a pied, or something like just this pastel pied, which I think brings in not just yellows. Pastel and pied work together very well in my opinion. It really kind of just jumbles it up, but it definitely does a lot to add contrast to the animal's colors, and it brings in kind of some granulation to its pattern as well, I would say. And finally, one of my first picks would be the highway, which is a simple combo again of gravel and yellow belly. Highways are highly underrated, but they are beautiful. They really live up to the name. As you can see, it looks like it's a highway that you can pass somebody on with the little lines and such like that. And what I really like about highways is the colors underneath of them as well. They kind of look like a dirty older highway. You've got a very nice light beautiful snake, but you've got the blacks fading into the yellows. nose. A lot, again, of contrast. And I always notice near the tail, it really solidifies and becomes more of a no passing lane, so to speak. Believe it or not, I actually found one here that's on sale. So here's one that's $200. Go get it if you see it and you want one. It's actually fairly large too. This is nearly breeder size, if not breeder size, for $200. That's a good deal. Just for contrast, I want to show the Freeway ball python, which is also on sale. What is going on? I didn't even, no, that was not on sale when I put it on here. So you can see the difference here. It just has some more browns. I feel like it lends a little bit better to the contrast of the animal. If I had to pick between Freeway and Highway, I would pick Freeway, but just generally they're a little bit more in price. As you can see, this is normally an almost $400 snake. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see some of the snakes that we've hatched recently, you can actually check out our playlist right here.